Hi, my name is Richard Simmons, and I want to talk to you today about building a foundation in the lives of your children so that they have a strong belief in the existence of God. I want to talk about the relationship between science and God. I think so many young people believe that science has proved that He does not exist. But does the latest science seem to point to the existence of God? Could science itself be evolving in the face of new discoveries, new evidence, and bold critical thinking? Pew Research did a survey of a large number of scientists, and 51% of them believe in God. If science could prove that God does not exist, you wouldn't have any scientists that believed in Him. There are three different ways that people see the relationship between science and God. The first is the belief that they're at war with each other. This is what Richard Dawkins and Christopher Hitchens and Sam Harris believe. The second is that they have nothing to do with each other. Speaking on the question of God, the great paleontologist and atheist Stephen Jay Gould of Harvard concluded, "We neither affirm nor deny it. We simply can't comment on it as scientists." And then the final one, it's the belief that science points to the existence of a divine intelligence. Take, for instance, DNA. One of the most notorious atheists to ever live was Anthony Flew. Flew was a very aggressive atheist. He loved to debate Christians. And then later in life, he changed his mind and shocked the world. And when he was asked why, he says, one of the main reasons is because science has pushed me in that direction. He said, particularly the discovery of DNA. And Flew said, DNA is this intricate, complicated, like computer's program. He says there's no way nature could have just produced it. There had to be a divine intelligence behind it. And so he changed his mind. A second is a discovery made by the astronomer Edwin Hubble. He was looking through his grand telescope and discovered that the galaxies were moving away from each other. You see, science always believed that the universe was static and that it was eternal. You never needed a God because it was eternal. It's always been here. Once that Hubble made this discovery, in fact, Einstein went out and looked through the telescope and agreed that he's right. It just blew cosmology apart. Because if you take these galaxies and they're expanding and they're moving away from each other, and you go back in reverse, you come to a beginning. And it's very biblical. God said, "Let there be light," and there was this great explosion. And that's really what the Big Bang Theory is showing us. Now, this final point is what I call theism's strongest argument. It's the fine-tuning of the universe. And even Richard Dawkins, and both he and Christopher Hitchens agreed that this is a major problem for atheism. They have no way of explaining how this happened. And what the fine-tuning basically says, and this comes from astrophysicists who all seem to agree that there are 122 variables that have to be in perfect alignment, perfect precision, in order for the universe to exist, in order for our world to exist, and for human life to exist. All 122 of these variables have to be perfectly aligned. One of the great astronomers who, once he really learned of this, his name was Fred Hoyle, and he was so frustrated he made this famous statement: "A common sense interpretation of the facts suggests that a super intellect has monkeyed with physics as well as with chemistry and biology." Richard Dawkins has said something similar. He calls it multiverse theory. And then he says, it could be that at some earlier time, somewhere in the universe, a civilization evolved to a very, very high level of technology and designed a form of life that they seeded onto, perhaps this planet. I mean, think about how preposterous that is. Why couldn't he just say, maybe God did this? Parents, discussing science, creation, and the existence of God with your children has the potential to be some of the most fascinating conversations you can have with them. Research the issues and find the answers together. I think it's important that our kids know about the powerful evidence for God, and that in reality, science is our friend.